For those of you that have dialed in, I'm joined by John Lowell, partner at October 3 in Atlanta and former president of the Conference of Consulting Actuaries, talking about a variety of different topics today. John, this is probably one of my more favorite segments to talk to the different people that I've interviewed, and I'm especially excited to get your perspective on these questions. We're going to talk for a little bit about leadership. So thinking about your leadership experiences, what have you found are the biggest challenges of leading?
Where do I start? Leadership is tough. One of the reasons I say that, and I think almost proves that it's true, is there are a whole lot more followers in the world than there are leaders. If you think in the business world, if you think about a pyramid, there are very few people, no matter what the pyramid is, whether it is a small group of friends or a family or a small business or a large business, wherever it is that the leaders sit, they tend to be at or one of the people at the top of a pyramid. It might even be a pyramid within a pyramid. For instance, if you're a team leader and then you as a team leader report up to somebody else. But in any event, you've got a number of people who sit, and I hate the term, but I can't think of a better word, below you on that pyramid. And probably, especially in this profession, each of those people has their own mind. It's one of the both great and horrible characteristics about people in our profession, in that we work with smart people. We really do. And because they're smart people, they are frequently opinionated. And you know what? If you find a group of enough people, I bet you they don't all have the same opinion. And even if they do all have the same opinion as each other, I bet they don't have the same opinion as you do. And that creates a problem, or at least creates a challenge. And sometimes the challenge winds up presenting itself as an opportunity. But I think one of the most important things to do is to build consensus. Either bring people towards your way of thinking, or if you realize that you can't, or perish the thought, maybe you decide that your way was not the best and somebody else's was, find what you think is the right answer and bring everybody into that fold. How you do that is a matter of style, but it's not easy. One of the things that works for a lot of people is if you lead by example. If you think what you need to do is going to be really unpopular, but it is really necessary, be the person who takes the heat for it first. If other people see that you're doing it, that you are absorbing the pain first, they're far more likely to follow you. If it's something fun, let somebody else do it first. Or be part of the group that does it first, but don't take it all to yourself if it's something that people are clearly going to find just really enjoyable. The other thing that's really tricky is dealing with personalities. And Michael, as you know, one of the things that you have done now and that I did is we both led a CCA board. You're leading one right now. For those who don't know, it has anywhere between 20 and 22 people on it. Typically all strong personalities, typically very different personalities. And we don't get together that often, but when we do, almost everybody wants to express their opinion and let their personality come out. And one of the challenges that a CCA president has is building consensus among that group, but managing each of the personalities so that everybody in the room feels like they've had their fair say on a topic. Where do you cut things off? When do you let people keep going? That's really a challenge. I'm sure you've experienced that. You saw the way I failed at it and hopefully found everything that I did wrong and found ways to do it better.
I wouldn't say that. No, that's excellent. So John, thinking about people that you consider to be successful leaders, what traits do they have and how do they demonstrate their leadership? I know you've expressed a lot of things that you think have been the biggest challenges? And I think in some of that, you've expressed what makes somebody a good leader. And it'd be good to get you to just maybe elaborate on that a little bit with the people that you've seen throughout your career that you do consider to be successful leaders.
Michael, that's a really good question. To me, there are a couple of things. One is they really do lead by example. There is not a single set of rules for them, which are whatever they want them to be, and a different set of rules for everybody else. But whatever the rules that they set for everybody else are, they follow them as well. It's really difficult as somebody who is working for a leader or with a leader, if you prefer, to see the leader ignoring their own rules and then say, well, gee, why do I have to follow them? Because the simple fact is that if they think they're too good for the rules, then why shouldn't you think that you're too good for the rules? But the really great leaders, in my experience, they have a way of making people want to join their team. So if they start a new committee or task force that they're going to serve on, everybody wants to be on that with them. I think what happens is they get a reputation for bringing people along in that group. They get a reputation for making people feel better for having been a part of that team, making people feel more accomplished for having been a part of that team. There's no one right way to do that. I certainly don't know the right way, but I've seen people do it. I'll give one example, and it wasn't in a role necessarily where I specifically had a leadership position, but I tried to take one to some extent. And this is probably in very, very late 20th century timeframe for what it's worth. We had a group of roughly 20 entry or barely past entry level, what we referred to then as actuarial students. Some of them might have been new ASAs by that point, but for the most part, they were people who were still non-credentialed and taking exams. And I just started doing something on my own where once a week, I would take one of them out to lunch. The first time I did it, I had whoever sat in the office next to me pick a name out of a hat, and that was the person I asked to go to lunch that next week. And then after that, when we got back from lunch, whoever I took to lunch, I would ask them to pull the next name out of the hat, and that would be who I took to lunch the next week. And I would just talk to them about some of the things, frankly, that you've talked to me about today. Why did you get into this career? What do you like about it? What do you not like? What do you think you're missing? If there's something that I could do for you or do for your career or do for your place in this firm that would make you feel better or that would help you to develop, what would it be? What I found was it made them feel somewhat appreciated, and it made them feel like their opinion and their goals actually mattered. Now, I wasn't really anybody. I mean, I was just another person who was at a higher level than them who was willing to do this. But I always got the sense that making them feel like I could make a difference, therefore made them feel like they could make a difference, and it really did a lot for them.
You know, that's good advice. And I mean, I've seen that play out in my career as well. And that type of leadership characteristic goes a long way in motivating people. The other question that I'll ask you on this topic, for anyone that maybe they're not in a leadership role right now, what advice would you have for them if they want to move into a leadership role, be it within their team or company or within the profession? What should they do?
So much depends on the structure that you're talking about, whether it's a leadership role in a volunteer organization or a leadership role in a company. I mean, clearly to get into a leadership role, you have to start somewhere below a leadership role. I think the best way, or at least one of the best ways to do it, Michael, is find yourself and I'm going to call it a mentor, but it's not necessarily a mentor, somebody who you can use as a guide, somebody that you can use as a teacher, somebody that you can use as a helper. And all of those, and I think of this specifically within the concept of mentoring. A lot of people, and I've seen this, and it seems to be a trend these days, and I don't think it's the right trend. A lot of people ask for mentors, and a mentor is assigned to them. In my experience, when a mentor is assigned to you, that mentoring relationship does not work. I just think it's entirely the wrong approach. Mentoring relationships, in my opinion, have to develop naturally. You need a common bond as a protege with a mentor. When you have that, when there's something that you have in common, some sort of a connection, and I can't explain to you what it is, but when you have it, you will know it. That's the right sort of connection to make. Pick that person's brain. Just ask them lots of questions. You run into a problem. Okay, Michael, how would you handle this? What would you do if you were in my shoes? And let them tell you how they would handle it. That may not be the right answer for you, but you'll hear a perspective. Excuse me. Hopefully that will give you something to think about, another way of approaching the same problem. As you see more and more of how to handle things and you become more comfortable, find somebody who's more junior than you and approach them and find ways to help develop them. When you start developing another person, whether you have the title or not, you become a mentor, you become a leader. So it's not so much that you're being handed a leadership role or being told to take on a leadership role. You're just becoming a leader by stepping into that role. When people around you see that you are a leader, whether or not you actually have the role, someone will give you or ask you to take on a much more formal role as a leader. And to me, that's the best way to get into those positions.
Excellent. Thanks, John.